Bryn and friends, Bryn and friends. It starts with Bryn, but that's not where it ends. You've also got a bunch of her friends, Bryn and friends, Bryn and friends.
Featuring Phill.
I'm like, it's 6:30 in the morning. I am fucking eat breakfast.
Simon.
Oh, I had a smoothie. For breakfast.
Inessa.
I'm looking at empty boxes all day. My life is nothing but empty boxes.
And a wonderful human being, Bryn. Whoa!
Bryn and friends, Bryn and friends. On the internet, talking about stuff. Different views off the cuff. What do you think will get discussed? Bryn and friends, Bryn and friends.
Maybe we can start with Ellen versus Elon, because you are in LA, and if you don't want to weigh in, you're in LA in the comedy scene. Like, if you don't want to weigh in, that's
yeah, I am. I'm on the very peripheral of the comedy scene.
Would you not talk shit about Ellen because of that?
If I did have a personal experience, I would die for a personal experience with Ellen. Are you kidding me? It was like I would be like blabbing about it nonstop. It used to always puzzle me. You know, there's like those things about like, they're like, oh, you can't look this celebrity in the eye. You know, like there's like those stories you hear, you go, and you think, what is that? Like, why would so many people have the same weird thing? If you're that famous that people are always looking at you like they know you, like, and so I wonder if it's like a feeling of you're always like, do I know, like, is this an I know you, or that you like?
That rider provision is not the craziest one to me. Like, I don't know. I mean, culturing a workplace full of harassment is definitely worth, condemning. I don't know. The eye contact thing is like, the weirdest thing with eye contact thing for me is like the way that she had it with her guests. You know what I mean? In a sense of like, that person's literally going to come and talk to you in like 30 seconds.
What do you think, Phill? You're the one who brought Ellen to this show.
Yeah, it was like, oh man, life.
It was
like
Phill?
that.
You brought Ellen to this show? Really?
Yeah, that was his celebrity meltdown thing.
Oh yeah.
To Simon's point about how she interacts with her guests and stuff like that, this for me, like, so Ashton Kutcher came out and was like, I've had great experiences with Ellen, nothing but love. Yeah, and I just think it's like such a shitty move, because like, of course Ellen's not going to treat Ashton Kutcher or Katy Perry like garbage. Like they're like A-list celebrities, you know what I mean? But that's a very different position than the person who's bringing Ellen coffee. I just think it's like such a shitty move for people who are not affected by something to be like, well, that wasn't my experience. And like, that's something I've experienced like with racism, where people are like, well, I didn't experience racism. I'm like, you're a fucking white guy. Of course you didn't. Like, of course not. Like,
no, that guy's not racist. No way.
Yeah. He's not racist. I'm not racist. What's the big deal?
Just
shut the fuck up.
This question was supposed to be about Ellen versus Elon.
Oh, yeah, nailed it! Done. Moving on.
I thought it was interesting previously when Simon's partner Matthew brought up that, you know, maybe we wouldn't be as hard on like a white dude as we are on Ellen, this like white woman. I
gave this a lot of thought after Matthew said it, and I was like, I think we are harder on Ellen. I think that what makes this story interesting and notable is that she's a woman. And I think if we say that's not true, then we're deluding ourselves. But the behavior is still reprehensible. Like, the two things exist, and it's very hard to like. Now, I find that hard to navigate. I'm not sure, but
her brand is, and maybe she makes this her brand because she's a woman. Like, I don't know, but her brand is be nice.
Elon will always get away with more than Ellen.
Inessa, do you have feelings about Elon?
He had a kid with Grimes. Is that yeah?
Not a feeling, but yes.
No, yeah. I'm stuck on Ellen a little bit still.
Okay.
I don't think anything justifies Ellen's behavior.
Yeah,
and I know I brought up the off eye contact thing off the top. That was more tangential.
Phill, how do you feel about Elon?
Oh, I think he sucks so much.
Who's worse?
You look at their entire body of work, right? And like in the case of Elon Musk, like he's done a lot of great stuff, but like he also has, well, I mean, like all the like, Tesla stuff, so like, but like electric cars and stuff like that. He's made a shitload of money from it, but like
whoever's responsible for putting a whoopee cushion in a Tesla needs some recognition.
Is that a thing?
Yes, when you go into a Tesla, there's a button you can push and you can make different seats fart. Did you not know this?
I bet that is Elon.
No.
That is what a Tesla. My brother has a Tesla. You go in there and it's like you assign a whoopee cushion to the seat. Isn't that crazy?
I love that.
Oh, I mean, we laughed for an hour straight.
I think so. There's a gender component to this. I think that as a man, he gets away with stuff that like Ellen would never be able to. But also, I think because he's one of the wealthiest people on the planet, his wealth carries so much authority that people just listen to whatever he says. But there's so many times where he like oversteps, and that for me is what pisses me off. Like when those kids were in that cave, and he was like, "I'm gonna build like a machine that's gonna like rescue them," and people were like, No, we actually got this. Like we have a plan in place. And he's like, "You dummies! Like I have the best plan of them all." Like
so that's the comedic element of his personality. Like that's like he threw the rock at the window or whatever and it broke. Was that him?
Yeah, at the truck.
Tesla.
Yeah,
that's kind of like that. Like I've got this great idea. Does the demo? Breaks the window right away. He's a clown. That's a clown move.
He was like, "Yeah, like I'm kind of over Tesla, like I'm leaving it or whatever." He like, and the stock's just like there's just this huge ripple effect, and like I don't think he actually knew what he was doing. It's like his fans will be like, "He masterminded that, he was the puppeteer or whatever." But I think he just had a tantrum. He's worth $69 billion. Like it's obscene, and he just is like a baby, you know?
Yeah. It's immoral to be a billionaire.
Oh, for sure.
Let's talk about Leo season.
What does that even mean?
Inessa, I feel like
Inessa, are you a Leo?
No, not at all.
Oh.
Simon and I have the same birthday.
Yeah.
Inessa, you did the balloon animals at our birthday.
I did.
You made Matthew that hilarious dick. Anyway, Inessa, I feel like you're into astrology, right?
I'm into everything. Honestly, I will try to believe anything that will give me any clue into my future. So I will take it all with a grain of salt, but I will take it.
Explain Leo season then.
It's your birthday time, right? That's what it means?
I think it used to affect every sign too, differently.
Oh, okay. Like I'd have to look up a Leo. I think Leos are a bit like what? They're a little more aggressive? I don't know, a little more lion? They're the lions, right?
Yeah.
They're
the lions. Okay. I actually do have lots of experience with Leos now that I think about it. Every one of my relationships now, if I'm actually being honest.
That's nice.
Sexy, right? Leos are sexy, aren't they?
Yes.
Like a lion, right? Leo's a lion?
A sexy lion.
Yeah. Well,
for the record, I've never been like, lions are so sexy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
Really?
true. Yeah, it's true.
Bryn was watching The Lion King and she was like,
There are probably yeah, well, Disney animals are different because, you know, they're talking and, you know, they're
anthropomorphized. They have like
they're
features.
anthropomorphized. Yeah, but like within within lions, there are probably some lions that are sexier than other lions. So what makes the sex? There must probably something that makes you sexy as a lion.
Remember that dentist who killed a lion and it had this like beautiful mane? That was a sexy lion and he killed it. And I think people were more upset because that lion was good looking.
He's out. He's out of the conversation. He's not engaging.
Sorry, you're going to have to join, Bryn.
He's not engaging.
It's just going to be 3 squares going forward. 3 squares.
It says, just can't accept that an animal can be sexy. To other animals, not to humans. And I think I actually meant that. I don't think I meant that. I think that the Leos are the lion and Leos are sexy, not necessarily that the lions are sexy. Like I meant, you know, like Leos, they're sexy.
Walk it back.
just edit this part out. Oh.
I don't support sexualizing animals. I don't condone it in any way.
Inessa, Like,
This topic is ridiculous because I don't care about astrology. Like, I think it's
No.
really.
It's the most Leo thing about us. I don't care about any other astrological signs. I couldn't name. What are they? I don't even know. Do you think I wouldn't know?
Apparently, there's supposed to be a 13th one, which changes the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I will say, and I am someone who's gone to a psychic or two. I did go to an astrologist once. It's such a, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. This is what I'm gonna ask you to edit out, just my embarrassing life. I met a girl in my clown class and she was in astrology. And so she gave me a reading and it was honestly, that was more accurate than anything. It's just as likely as anything else. There could be something, could be nothing, but what's anything else? I'm comfortable being like, maybe, sure. Apparently, if you stare at a full moon, it will regulate your period.
What?
If you stare at it?
You stare at the moon.
Simon, this won't help you. What do you think?
Yeah, but this is something I'm going to save this and I'm going to join another Zoom chat and I'll probably bring this up as my own fact. I'm going to steal this.
Let's move on. Has anyone ever broken up with a friend?
Yeah, I think so. But like in the way, like in an old school way, where I think I kind of ghosted a friend. Like I wouldn't describe myself as like a good friend, which doesn't mean I do bad things. I'm just like not like my like capacity when it comes to friendship is limited. Like I'm not that good at staying in touch, like those sorts of things. Like I'm a good friend if like you just want to like I don't text a lot, like that sort of thing. Like some people have different expectations of friends, and I felt like this person had like a really high expectation.
I received like a phone call that was like, hello, I just want to let you know that we are not best friends anymore. It had been a couple years.
How old?
I mean, we must have been in like junior high or something, or something, like we were pretty young, or it was like something like that. But it was like a formal call, and just like that's like the most final. I think now I sort of see friendships like as constantly evolving, like similarly like to what you were saying about kind of like not being like, I'm not going to be the kind of friend that remembers your birthday or even your name or face. But when I'm with you, I'm fully present. Friendships kind of go ebb and flows, I think, with phases of your life. So I think kind of like the letting go at certain times, sometimes when life changes for them, sometimes you connect less when somebody gets married or has kids or this or that, so.
Yeah, I think that's such like a joy. I think it's so nice when that ebb and flow of a friendship. I think it's so nice.
I was thinking kind of, Simon, about what you were talking about, like that, like when a friend wants more from you.
It was just hard for me to explain. It was hard for me to be like they were like I'm disappointed in you. Like I'm disappointed in that you don't make enough plans with me, that you're not in touch with me enough, like you're not involving me in your life as much. And it's so hard to be like, it's really not personal. Like I just find it difficult to look after myself.
You get into the game of trying to change other people's behavior to accommodate you. You're fighting with everyone your entire life.
There's like a couple of people in life, like mostly family members. So I'm like, I really want to change your behavior. You know what I mean? But it's like a really stressful thing to do, right? Like it's like not fun, and probably like you're going to be dissatisfied, and that's why family is so difficult. So with friends, I feel like the pleasure of friends is like, hopefully you have like a natural fit. You know what I mean? Where like
you get to be yourself. Yeah.
You get to be yourself. And the other one, I never felt her expectations were unreasonable. I just was like, I just think over time I'm not going to be the friend that you
person
want. Yeah.
My high school like sweetheart or whatever, I remember she had a friend break up with like one of her friends, and she like walked into like her friend's chemistry class right in the middle of class with a pair of scissors and cut off the friendship bracelet that she made for her in front of everybody. And then
what?
It hit the ground and everybody was like, oh, and it was a whole thing. Yeah. So like, I wish I had a story like that, but I don't.
That's a bold move.
I was friend broken up with like several times by my friend group. Do you know what I mean? Just in grade 5. And it's really awful. Like I would count it as like the top 3 most horrible moments of my life, like going forward. But it's just like, we don't want to be friends with you anymore. And being like,
I don't need every friend dumping me as well.
How much do you think that like the heartache that comes from friendship breakups sort of stems from like a lack of like models of what friendship looks like, how much of that translates to our friendships, where it's like you're told that you're supposed to have a friend from 5th grade and you're supposed to spend the rest of your lives together and they're supposed to help you for the rest of your life or whatever, versus the reality, which is that for a lot of people, friends cycle in and out of their lives.
Yeah, you see a lot of best friends, like that kind of idea, or like supporting character friends.
Totally.
In media. Yeah, when you were talking about that, I thought about Insecure and how have you guys watched Insecure?
Yes.
This whole last season is about like a friend disruption, at least. I've never seen anything like that on TV before, and I thought it was incredible. Even though those ideas of what romantic relationships are totally off base too.
Yeah.
That's not like what it's like. We just treat them as less important. I tell this story all the time, but when Matthew and I first started dating, I got drunk and I was like, just so you know, I'll never love you as much as I love Claire. And he was like, I didn't ask, and that hurt my feelings. The other day I was like, Ethel, my dog, I was like, Ethel, you're my best friend. And Matthew was like, are you going to tell Claire?
Yeah, what the fuck is this?
She's like a sexy animal, Claire. You're just...
I guess they aren't friend breakups, but like for a period of time in like my like 20s and 30s, like I had these like really strong female friendships, and then they sort of changed when that person would get married or like start dating a boyfriend and get married. And for me, like there was like a long series of those.
For me, it's like when my friends always want their partner to be there too.
Yeah, and you're like,
I've had this experience with both hetero and gay.
That's true, yeah.
Where I like ask a friend to do something and they show up with their partner, and I'm like, I made the reservation for 2. Like,
yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and you're just like, that person sucks.
Yeah. I'm always like, is it chill if Matthew comes or whatever? And sometimes I don't want Matthew to be there because it is a different dynamic.
And sometimes people just want Grimes and not Elon. Like, it's just what it is.
It happens.
Like,
it happens.
No one ever wants Elon.
It's just feeling a bit more like a Grimes kind of night.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
I wanted to talk about pandemic rules and if you've broken any.
I think I'm touching my mask too much. I know I am. I know I'm touching my mask too much. I'm like fussing with it. Like I'm trying not to, but I'm definitely fussing with it. So I'm always like very like performatively putting on hand sanitizer all the time, because just trying to, I don't know. I just like feel like it's too small for my face. Like I have a really big head. I don't know. Bryn knows that, but
you should talk to them.
I have masks I always feel like are slipping one way or another, and I'll just be talking to people and they're like slipping down like below my, and I just want, you know what I mean? So I'm always like just like pushing it. So I feel like that's one, and I love my mask.
I'm getting some wild acne from my mask. Anyway, Phill.
For me, it's probably hand washing, and I don't think I've broken the rules, but I'm just not as like thorough as I was at the beginning of COVID. Like the first 2-3 months, I was doing the full like surgical, like Grey's Anatomy. Like I was just in there, all the like under the nails, the whole thing, because it's a lot, right? Like early on, my hands were getting like chapped and stuff because I was washing them so much. But like overall, I've been pretty diligent, especially because Toronto is one of the hot spots for COVID.
Yeah,
I'm just at home baking bread.
Inessa?
Well, I was back in Toronto for like March through July first. So I came back on Canada Day. But so I spent, and I was very, a little bit too much maybe with my quarantine. Like my family was intense. They were like, we successfully quarantined your brother when he had H1N1. Like, we know what to do. There was like a garbage outside my door. My mother brought food on a tray. Like, I was like wiping like my pathway as I went. I came in, like I removed my clothes immediately in the hallway. And then like my mother took them to launder. Like then when I came back to LA, it was the worst possible time. It was like, it had been going like pretty good for a bit. And then it has spiked considerably. So I didn't like stop quarantining. So I didn't have like a moment of feeling like it was like even slightly normal again. I went to one outdoor stand-up taping. Steph Tolev did a taping like outdoors, 6 feet apart, and everybody had to get tested in the audience.
What's it like watching comedy like that? Like, is it funny still?
That felt like, like this might be normal again, where you can see people. Like it felt like that was like thrilling. But I went to one that was like, they were doing drive-ins. So another friend of mine had a taping and we went to a drive-in one outdoors. And that one was like surreal. You could hear like the echoes of people's like radios laughing. Like, so they sound weird. Like, you know, you can hear like somebody laughing from in their car, but the echo of it outdoors.
Yeah.
And then there were like drones, cameras.
How was that for them?
He said it was like kind of strange as well too, because I think he could hear, like the hearing in the monitors was strange. But it was really like powerful. Like he had a piano too. He played like some songs. It wasn't even always like some of it was like kind of like melancholy too about this time. Like so it was kind of like cool to be like, whoa, this is the way. Like I thought he did an awesome job, but I understand how that would feel really, really strange.
Okay, let's talk about abolishing the police, I guess. Yeah. Phill, you've written about this. You've been involved with different abolitionist movements, I think, too.
Yeah, true.
But I guess I wonder if you're hopeful about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer. I'm not sure how to answer what you're asking. I don't often think of things in terms of hope. Like, as weird as that sounds, but like that's just not really the currency that I sort of operate with generally. So what I will say about the defunding and abolishing the police thing is like, it's been pretty wild for me to see, how much the conversation has changed over the years. I would say I really got into this work maybe about 2.5, 3 years ago. I mean, it's been on my radar for a while, but I had some pretty rad friends in Toronto that were talking about, you know, getting rid of police in schools and that kind of thing. And so I started my like deep dive into like the literature, into like what people were doing in community and stuff like that about 2.5 years ago. And the change from then to now has been unbelievable. Like literally, this was like so fringe and so niche 2.5 years ago. So it's changed a lot. I will say that like that initial momentum has kind of petered out quite a bit. And like, that's part of why I didn't like, I was excited about what's going on, but at the same time, I didn't hold my breath, because this is often what happens is like, there's a sort of flashpoint moment and people are like, this is terrible. Like we can't tolerate this. But most people like aren't directly affected, or they have minimal sort of skin in the game. And so it peters out. And I kind of see that happening with defunding the police. And so for me, like, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And I just kind of stay the course. Like I've been doing this work. I'm doing it right now. And I'm going to keep doing it. And if people are actually on board, like, great. But like, regardless, like, I'm still going to be doing this work. So I think that's why for me, like, hope in this particular moment doesn't really make sense to me, because it's like very much like, it's a very sort of like myopic view of it. It's like, in the last like 3 months of what's happened, like, what do you think is going to happen? But it's like, there's people who've been in this struggle for the last like since like the 50s, you know, if not even before that actually. So it's just like, for me, I'm like, I don't know, like, there's going to be some changes, but like, are we going to see a world that's like free of prisons, which is like where politically, like, what I'm working towards? No, we're not going to see that in the next like year. I'm going to see that. We're not going to see that in I might not even see that in my lifetime. And like, but that's the thing. So many of the folks that were doing this work knew that like a lot of the changes that they were fighting for, they wouldn't see in their lifetime, but they were still committed to it. Like, because like it came from a place of like a moral imperative. They were just like, no, these are things that we need to do. Like prisons are horrible places. It's horrible to put people in cages.
Inessa, I don't know, is the conversation different in the States, do you think? Or
I mean, I think the U.S. is different in a lot of ways, but I have to say, like, I think it's really interesting to even be having the conversation about another way, like talking about breaking down a concept, like, altogether, like reevaluating the way we look at, which I think is pretty amazing, because I think it's like, rather than trying to focus on one tiny thing at a time or one person at a time, it's like looking at the whole way we view society and what we value and what's important and what we want like government to be responsible for. And I am very hopeful because I because I want to be.
Yeah.
because I want things to get better.
I think for a long time I've like been very anti-prison. You know what I mean? Like in terms of abolishing prisons, but like my scope of understanding didn't really overtly include the police until much more recently. So I would consider myself someone who like that, my sort of understanding of that has expanded, and that's probably because of my own privilege, right? Like I just hadn't really like put it all together. I feel like I have a better understanding of that now, but I sort of feel discouraged, I think, by like what we think is activism, like so that sort of performative internet activism. And then when you go to the actual like policy changes, I don't see those policy changes happening. Like, I think the actual change is going to come from like the boring work of like engaging with your city, like basically engaging with your city and asking them to actually fundamentally change what they're doing. And I don't know if I see that. Like I just see Black Lives Matter doing that work. Like they were doing that work before, and they're continuing to do that work now. So
when I was in high school, I did French immersion, and like my French teacher told us this story about like this kid who caught a little like grasshopper or something, and every time it was jumping in the jar, it would hit the roof of the lid of the jar. And he brought it home, and his mother was like, "You need to let that thing out. You can't bring it home." And so he let it out, and as he let it out, it jumped exactly to the height of the jar, and it no longer jumped any higher. And at the time, I was like, "What the hell's this story? Like I don't even know what's going on."
Yeah.
But the more I reflect on it, like for me, it like sort of captures, I think, what's happened to a lot of white people when it comes to talking about defunding the police. Like it's a lack of imagination. Like they hit kind of a ceiling where they can't imagine a world without police. And without fail, when I talk about defunding the police, and particularly as a step to abolishing the police, the pushback is always, well, what about all the murderers and the rapists? Like the most like sort of incendiary, inflammatory sort of pushback, right? And one, you just look at the data, and police don't actually stop those.
Don't
like
stop that shit at all.
Two, asking that question sort of implies that police aren't the murderers and the rapists, which
Right.
if you're from a community of color, they actually are. For me, like those are the kinds of conversations that we need to be having. And I get so frustrated and exhausted and disheartened by dealing with white folks that like it's a lack of imagination, and beyond that, it's that in the same way that they've sort of grown accustomed to living in this world where we can only imagine police, they've also grown accustomed to seeing a world where Black folks and Indigenous folks are brutalized and killed by the state. And they've just become so comfortable with that they're like, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, this is just the way that the world works. We don't need to actually reinvent the wheel. Like, a lot of these solutions are already in place. There are communities that are practicing ways of intervening when someone's when someone's in crisis. There are communities that deal with drug overdoses. There are communities that deal with any of these things that don't rely on batons and pepper spray and guns. The solutions are before us. There are communities that are practicing these things. But again, the people that are in positions of power to actually like pull on the levers of change often lack imagination or are just deeply racist.
White people are the worst.
100.
You can edit me out entirely.
Sports. Okay, fine. Inessa, how do you feel about sports?
I like when one team gets a goal on the other team. You know what I want? I want one of those those like cardboard cutouts they have of humans at baseball games now for COVID. They have like people's seat fillers.
I thought they were green screening them in.
Cardboard seat fillers they have now. I want some of those for my dining room. I want to feel like I've got I want humans at the table.
Your take on sports is I want the fans in my house.
Yeah, I want the cardboard cutout audience members in my dining room. I do think sports are important. I've had this thought recently. Here's why. I think that we live such a busy life mostly, and we don't really get much time to relax. I think because sports are over 2 hours, like I was like, I love that you could sit down and like you don't really relax if you only get to relax for like an hour or even 2 hours. Like there's something about the length of sports that I think is like meditative for a lot of people. I think you really need to clock out for a while, and I don't think it happens in our culture in an hour or 2 hours. I think you need.
Disagree.
Okay, great. I love it. I
love
it.
I don't know. There was just Noam Chomsky once was like, sports are like the bread and circus, right? Like they're the thing we use to distract people. So they like no, but and I'm like, why are we so concerned with getting sports back?
Everything that Bryn said, no. But here's the thing though, like I basically like sort of went down the path that you went down, where it was like Chomsky said this, like sports is racist, and then ultimately I was like, okay, but I'm still so happy to be distracted right now. For me, sports has been a welcome distraction, and like, yeah, the world's still really messed up, but I'm like in watching my Raptors.
I had like a thought that was meant to cheer me up, but made me feel worse. How do you reconcile two things at the same time? How do you reconcile living, knowing that there's always simultaneous suffering? And then I thought, oh, on the best day of my life, various other people died, had a horrible, like, you know, I was like, there's no good day. There's no good day. There's no good day. There's no, because so it's like those two. How do those two things coexist? Does being happy means you have to ignore the suffering of others? Is that the
yeah, is it being ignorant, or is
that what ignorance is bliss? Is that what does happiness exist?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
There's two sides to that coin, right? Like either there's no good day or every day is a good day, right? My high school guidance counselor had a sign that was like all one word, and it said, opportunity is nowhere. And I was like, what? And she's like, depends on how you look at it. It also says opportunity is now here. And I was just like, I'm just going to choose to see it as nowhere.
Like, Simon, do you want to say anything quickly?
You guys should have your sports. You guys should have your sports. I like that guidance count. I'm going to think about all of this last part. I'm like,